Uh, Good morning. Good morning.
What's up, everybody? It's the Morning Deuce with D-Spin, Davis Spindle. How's everybody doing? Right off the top, Cleveland Cavaliers 30-point win. That puts us at 2 games for the Warriors and 1 game for the Cavs. We knew they'd fight back. The old adage is a playoff series doesn't start until the home team loses a game, and that still hasn't happened yet. You know, no one said it was going to be easy for me to pee on another man's shoes. No one said I would just be able to walk right up to it and just whip it out and pee because, frankly, I think that's illegal. I'm actually certain that's illegal. I might even have to get a signed consent form here in this circumstance, but I certainly couldn't do it without consent. So I wasn't expecting this to just be a lazy stroll in the park that ended with me urinating on my coworker's feet. No, I knew that a battle was coming. You don't take a shot at King James unless you really, you got to kill him. You can't miss. I believe that's what they say. So, I'm feeling okay. I feel like it's a game of adjustments, and I still feel confident the Warriors will come back, hopefully take Game 4 with some adjustments, some competitive play. They have a 2-1 lead without really any marked play from their 2 best players. So confidence level is up, but this definitely, I'm not disillusioned. I'm also aware that the NBA probably wants this to go 7 games. They can maximize the money, and these teams are good enough to win every home game. So I'm not disillusioned by any means, but I'm confident. I still am holding in my pee for as long as possible as a form of training and just in general to show my mental strength over my body. Mind over matter. Mind over matter creates a hard bladder. I think that was Gandhi who said that. Muhammad. I think that was pre-hunger strike when he was a little bit more jolly, not quite so serious. Why so serious, Gandhi? It's also probably from Gandhi's mom or friends or former friends, that quote, that second quote there. That's the pee on your shoes bet. Next thing I want to talk about is this story related to the Olympics. Most of the things I talk about with the Olympics are Zika related. One of the analysts who covers the Olympics typically for NBC Sports won't be going because they're pregnant and they can't risk it. So, I also saw a video of Brazil where police took a helicopter and put 300 police officers into a building that had been overtaken by drug dealers and drug users and told them to come out, and they didn't, and then just opened fire at a bunch of, heroin users. So Brazil still cleaning things up is probably the polite way to say that. And, this isn't abnormal for cities during the Olympics. Barcelona is famous. I believe it was 92 they had the Olympics there. They took the homeless people in Barcelona, of which there are many, and put them all in a van and built a shanty town for them outside the city and put them all in the shanty town and basically kept them there during the time the Olympics was there so it looked better for the city. And then as soon as it was over, they knocked down the shanty town and dropped everybody back off. So, we do a lot of faking it, but maybe Brazil decided this is the time to clean out some of our crack dens. But this story swings a different way, and this is about drug use, because the Olympics is actually rampant with drug use, and it's a huge problem to the point that there are Olympians, particularly one in Russia who just is a runner, and she basically was saying, I don't even understand why we can't use banned substances. People want to see us run the fastest we can. Why can't we just use the best food, technology, etc. available? Which is an entirely different debate, but post-Olympics, they always go back, test all the athletes' urine that they save with new advanced testing, and they always find that athletes are doping that they didn't catch then. 54 athletes in the Summer Olympics of 2008 and 2012, according to this article, have been caught. Their tests are now positive. 31 of those were from 2008, which is the Olympics in Beijing, which you also know as the Michael Phelps Olympics, where he won all those gold medals. Of the 31, 14 of the 31 bad tests, 14 were from Russia. Russia does not care. Just like cleaning up the neighborhoods to make them look better, they'll use drugs and make sure they can get past the advanced testing because they don't care. They just want to look good. And, a lot of American athletes do the same thing. It is really an unfortunate system. However, what we have in the United States is it's really, honestly, it's pretty difficult sometimes for our athletes to know if they're going to set off a drug test. Maria Sharapova just set off a drug test for a drug that she was prescribed in 2006 that didn't become illegal till 2015, and she didn't know. And then she didn't know what drug it was or what amount. So the same thing she'd been using for 10 years, all of a sudden she can't do it. Well, what happens is a lot of these other countries, Russia, China, they regulate a lot of the drug intake for their athletes. They continue to test them all the time so they know where they stand. But also they look at every single batch of medicine that's given to the athlete or supplements and make sure it's regulated to a certain amount. The FDA and what we do here is batch analysis. So basically, and I'm not an expert on this, but I do know at least a little bit, not everyone has the time or energy. So if someone is training for, let's say they're training to represent the United States in the marathon event, the long distance running event, they're not sponsored. They're not part of a huge team. They don't have a ton of assets. What they do is they run. They run well. They maybe get, some sponsorships, corporate sponsorships, but nothing too crazy, but they run and run and run. Those people don't always have the time to research every single thing that they put inside their body, and I'm sure they have strict diets, but in terms of how it stacks up against international drug regulations, that should fall, perhaps, in my opinion at least, on maybe a United States body that once you qualify for the Olympic team is helping you through that process. But I don't think it goes that way. I think someone who's a marathon runner doesn't necessarily have that support. So in addition to all the crazy amounts of training that they're doing, they also have to be pharmaceutical experts, which is a very difficult task. And then not only that, if they're taking a supplement that, let's say the banned amount of a supplement is more than, 5%. This is a random number I'm throwing out. And they're taking all these pills that they think is hitting them at 2%. Their levels are going to be at 2% because that's what it says on the bottle. Well, that bottle is a, average amount for millions and millions and millions of bottles like that. They could have gotten a batch of the bottles where their 2% was actually 6%, 6.5%. And other batches of bottles have much smaller outliers where there may be only 1% of whatever this supplement is. And basically, they think they're not taking too much of a supplement to set off a test, but they actually will. And we have a problem with this in a lot of sports in the country. There's stories of NCAA athletes setting off tests because they drank a certain type of vitamin water, which actually will show up on banned NCAA substance lists. So we need to have a better regulating body. We need to figure out a better way to test these athletes because the tests are always behind the people trying to cheat so they can catch them. The people trying to cheat are always going to cheat. But what I fear for is the people who are trying to do it right and get put into the wrong circumstance because I think there are a lot of those people, more than we give them credit for because we tend to be cynical. So there's a problem. There's an uneven playing field, and it's an issue that we culturally need to figure out how we should address it. Because if we can't put everyone on the same level playing field, we need to either knock off the regulations completely or do some type of much more intense system to put them on a regulated playing field. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about today as we head close to the summer of Zika and the Rio Olympics, and as I continue to prepare my urine and root for the Warriors. That's the end of part one. Now let's move on to part two. All right, for part two today, earlier this week I talked on Monday, actually, Tuesday morning, I talked about the Tuesday morning podcast before I voted about the AP report that came out the night before that Hillary Clinton had solidified the amount of delegates needed to win the nomination, and the difference between superdelegates and regular delegates and how they can change their opinion, and how that release was sort of a very intelligent, shrewd move by her campaign to get that signature the night before and, contact someone who would publish the report, but also maybe not great for the organic voting process for the United States, for American citizens. Well, there was a report in the paper today, or everywhere today, that the AP was actually getting phone calls from Sanders supporters who were upset and actually making violent threats about the AP for publishing that report before, accusing them of trying to limit support when a high voter turnout would help Sanders. It's probably not what Sanders would want, such an aggressive response, but I guess the way that you do that, we said eyeballs is what makes money, so if you really want to fight back against them, you should probably just try to avoid reports from the AP. It's very hard, though, because everyone in the echo chamber just mimics what they hear, and next thing you know, you're listening to someone who's listening to someone who's listening to someone who's talking about the AP. It's a very difficult system. I'm not sure how you can show your lack of support. It's not like, I'm just not going to buy sneakers from Nike anymore because they have sweatshops, It would be like a Nike sneaker that gets resold at a different outlet and a different outlet and a different outlet. And by the time it gets to you, it's got a completely different label and you don't know, it was actually made in the same sweatshop. Anyway, I know it's weird. I just compared the AP to a sweatshop. That's probably a harsh comparison. But it is an interesting story. And there is recording of one of the voicemails that was left, one of the threatening voicemails. And we have it, or I have it. So I'm going to play it for you just to get an idea of what, some of these people are saying. So I'm going to play that now. Hello. My name is Larry Flanders. And I would like to call to complain to you at the Associated Press for what I can only describe as a disparaging and immoral journalistic decision to run an article that is based on something that is mere speculation and not entirely built in fact. Now, what you did was you attempted to stop what I and others, not I, but like others, have described as a political revolution. And you have stopped this revolution. Now, the candidate, Bernie Sanders, said that high voter turnout in California and other such states would lead to a successful primary for him. And what you did was circulated an article that showed a lack of journalistic integrity and ultimately kept the voter rates low. With low voter rates, that supported Miss Clinton. This was a poor decision. I do not know what 4-year accredited journalistic institution whoever distributed this article, or whoever was the managing partner of this article, what school they got an accredited degree from in journalism school. But I assure you, the debt that you likely inherited, which I believe is momentous, probably was not worthwhile. It might have been more worthwhile to you to wait until someone like Bernie Sanders, maybe 4, 8, 12, 75 years from now when he runs again, because he will likely live forever, is in charge of the country, and then that college university is free, and then you will not inherit those student loans that you clearly inherited for a poor decision because you likely did not go to class, especially on the day when they talked about journalistic ethics, morals, and trying to be a watchdog and the Fifth Estate. Basically, what I am saying is Larry Janitor or Smith or Larry, whatever I said I was, Larry Flanders, I believe, at the front of this phone call. Larry, my name is Larry, and what I'm saying is I am not angry. I would probably describe myself more as appalled. Appalled at the decision that your institution has made to give into a cycle that is in need of reform, in need of a revolution. Sanders supporters and others cannot change the media on their own. Now, we are also promoting ideas, and you, as an entity, are part of it, of bigotry and racism. I do not support bigotry. I do not support racism. I do not support bigotry. I basically do not support any tree other than a maple, which grows in the beautiful pastures of Vermont. Big supporter of the maple, as I have shown with my voting record in the Senate, pro-maple, not worried about the sugar content, put it in the kids' lunches. However, the other things I do not support. And improper media regulation of what you guys are doing is promoting negative actions throughout our entire country. So I'm disappointed in you. However, we will rise again. We will ride this to the end. Larry, myself, and Bernie, and the rest of his campaign, and his beautiful wife and kids, and all of them, whatever. They will, and Senator Sanders, they will go to the finish line. We will be a part of this. And if it's not this time, it'll be in 4 years when he lives again, or 8 years when he lives again after that. His haircut will be the same. His overgrown suits will be the same. He'll look and sound a little bit like Larry David, but a little bit more haggard and maybe slightly more intellectual. It's going to be basically the same. And we will rise again, but not like the South, because, again, I do not support the bigotry as part of my revolution. It's a different type of revolution, not one of separation, but one of union against the big banks on Wall Street and other such entities that are crushing our country. That is the end of my phone call. Oh, also, the healthcare system that we have is broken. It's unrelated to the phone call, but it's on my talking points note, so I figured I should point it out also at this time. Thank you, and I would write to you on the computer, but I am so sick of these damn emails. Larry Flanders or Janders or whatever, signing off. Again, if I find you in the street, I might fight you. So there it was. That Larry Flanders guy, he was clearly upset and frustrated, but in his words, he doesn't support violence. I think at the end he said he would fight someone, but that seemed like a loose threat. I think the media is, again, just running with this story a little bit. But I just wanted to give you the live view, the real listen of what some of those supporters who were so inspired to just call the news agency themselves felt. That's it. Have a good one. Happy Wednesday. Deuces. #trending.com. #tell your hot friends. I whispered it, so it's like a little creepy, but also sexual. So choose to take the sexual explanation and not the kind of weirdly uncomfortable one that's sort of giving you goosebumps. It's supposed to be like the really, ooh, goosebumps. Like, this is a sexy part of a movie, goosebumps, not the ooh, goosebumps. I'm walking alone in a dark alley at night by myself. #trending.com. Later.